Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is another episode of 903 Sports. I'm your host, Cameron Brown, joined by the boys, Mason Cudd and Hunter Shattuck this week. Boys, football season is officially over. We will have to wait until late August, early September of 2022 to get back going to the sport we all love. The LA Rams are your Super Bowl champions. They beat the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20 in their home Super Bowl. Hard not to be excited for, Aaron Donald and Matt Stafford and Von Miller and those guys. Aaron Donald played on those really bad Rams teams 5-6 years ago. So everything he's been through, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He gets a ring. Matt Stafford finally gets the monkey off your back, as you will, with him getting his first Super Bowl ring. And it was an odd game. It wasn't like an all-star show type game. It wasn't like the Eagles Patriots where it was a shootout. It wasn't crazy low scoring like the you talked to earlier. The Panthers Broncos was a couple years ago. It just kind of just odd games, some injuries here, some bad calls here that didn't work out, and the Rams end up pulling away on there's some missed calls in the game. We'll kind of get into that later. A phantom holding call late in the game, and which Bengals fans are gonna, between the Tyler Boyd drop in the fourth quarter and then the big hold that they called on 3rd and goal, and the Bengals were looking like they're about to stop them. Bengals fans have to hold on that for a while. And man, I've said it on every pod. I couldn't imagine being a Bengals fan right now after everything they've been through. And you go through that whole long season, you get to the big granddaddy game, and then you get beaten and a heartbreaker. So Hunter, I'll kind of jump to you. Where do the Bengals go from here? What's next for the Bengals? They definitely got to build that old line. Got to give Joe Burrow some help, but I'll let you go ahead and, what do the Bengals do now?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. And, you just said you couldn't imagine being a Bengals fan. Yeah, you could, man. We were Rangers fans in 2010, 2011. That's exactly what they're going through is what we went through and what we continue to go through 10 years later. I mean, it's brutal. I don't envy the Bengals fans. But no, you said it right. It's the offensive line. I mean, it was midway through the fourth quarter and they popped up a graphic last night and Joe Burrow had already been sacked as many times as any quarterback in Super Bowl history. And the only reason he didn't get sacked more was because the Rams held the ball for like 6 minutes there at the end of the fourth quarter. So obviously this season was a success. I mean, by any measure, they had a much better year than you could ever imagine, 4 months ago. So they can't be disappointed in the grand scheme of things, but put aside the heartbreak right now, and you got to be encouraged if they can, just find some pieces up front. Then they have the quarterback. That part is good. They have the young talent outside, and man, I like where they're at. They just have to make the right decisions with the offensive line and get some protection for Joe Burrow, and they'll be good.
And we talk about the O-line, and I think the O-line finally buckled in the fourth quarter. They outplayed expectations for the most part of that game. Talked about it all week about how, Aaron Donald and Von Miller, they're going to kill that O-line. And the O-line kind of held up in the first half. And then the walls kind of came in on them in the fourth quarter, and Burrow was getting lit up like crazy.
Yeah, and, it's weird. For the first half or so, Burrow was doing a really good job of getting the ball out quickly. And it's not like the D-line wasn't making progress. I mean, there was a bunch of times Burrow was having to move around in the pocket to kind of shift around defenders and get the ball out. And then I don't know, maybe I'm not a smart enough football mind to figure this out, but I don't know if maybe the Rams made some adjustments on defense with their coverage, because I feel like every sack Burrow would look and pump and think, oh, no, it's not there, and pull the football back down, and then he would get hit. So it's like where in the first half he was able to get the ball out to a receiver kind of late in the third quarter on into the fourth quarter. Those guys weren't open, and so he wasn't able to pull the trigger, and then the defensive line got to him.
Yeah, the first half was a lot of quick reads from Burrow. It was like first guy, 6-yard pass, keep the tempo up, quick passes, get the ball out of my hand quick, and let my guys like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins go make plays. Mm-hmm. And that I think they were trying to kind of get that strategy going in the second half. It fell apart on them. And after, I would say, into the third quarter and then all the fourth quarter is when the game started to really change, because they came out of the locker room at halftime and they threw that bomb to T. Higgins where he got away with that flag with the face mask to Jalen Ramsey where he yanked him to the dang ground. And then the first play's a pick by Stafford. And I'm like, whoa, here comes Cincinnati out of nowhere, like a bat out of hell. I don't know what Zach Taylor does at halftime, but the Bengals were like the best third quarter team in the league this year. And we saw what they did against the Chiefs and the Titans the week before that. So, but man, just definitely got to get that O-line fixed. That was the big talking point all season long with the Bengals O-line just being really weak. They are going to have to hammer the draft and O-line. I think I read today the Bengals have like $50 million in cap space going into this offseason because if you think about it, who are they paying big money to? All your studs. Joe Burrow's second-year deal. Jamar Chase is a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Mixon's on a running back deal. They don't have any superstars on the defense really. So
yeah, you're right.
There's no like max deal guys they have, so they'll be able to throw some money around. So the future,
they weren't even supposed to be good this year. Surely they're not paying people a bunch of money.
The future is bright there. They may have some money they can go throw at a big old lineman. They make a throw a trade at the Texans, go get Laramie Tunsil left tackle over there. So Cud, I'll jump to you. Who is to blame? Who do you think is to blame for this Bengals loss, if anybody?
I don't. All together, the whole game, I can't really point to like a whole quarter or something to where, it was just a disaster, and they could have changed that and possibly won the game. Now, I think what basically the game came down to was there in the fourth quarter drive. They had a minute 20 or whatever. First play, they get all the way out to the 50 already. So they need to go like 10, 15 yards. And McPherson, he's dead on. And then it's 3rd and 1, and they run the ball. That blew me away because not only did they run the ball and not get the first down, now they had to burn a timeout. So now they got one timeout left, 50 seconds left, and they have to get this first down. So I thought that honestly, that was the play of the game. I thought that was a piss poor run call. And why? I just didn't understand that play call at all.
I want to jump on that, Cud. I didn't hate the run call. I hated giving it to Samaje Perine. I don't know. He might have had 3 carries in that game as a whole. Joe Mixon had a really good game. He had 75 yards against that D line. So if you're going to run the ball, go with your best running back.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in there real quick as well. I remember that drive. It was on 2nd down, and I was just watching how they set up and everything. And the Rams, they weren't obviously in playing deep coverage or anything, but they were not crowding the line of scrimmage. Oh. And I remember thinking, hey, if you're going to run it, right now is the time to do it. On 2nd down, they maybe had 3 guys down. The linebackers were not crowding the line of scrimmage. And man, I don't know if I would have run it, but if you're going to, don't run it on 3rd and 1. Run on 2nd and 1 when you've got the space. Maybe pick up 5, 8 yards, something like that. They had a couple timeouts, so I don't know why they, like you said, Cud, I don't know why they ran it on 3rd and 1. And if you're going to run it, don't give it to Perine, give it to Joe Mixon, Mixon, he had almost 5 yards a carry on the game. That's really good.
Played really well. He outperformed expectations against that D line for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But as far as going back to the game as a whole, to me, at the beginning of the game, it started to look like a lot like the Chiefs game. The Chiefs were up 21-3 in the blink of an eye, and in pretty much the blink of an eye, the Rams were up 14-3 or 13-3. They messed up that extra point, and those 2 drives that the Rams had, that they went right down the field. Odell in the blink of an eye had like 60 yards receiving, and of course Cooper Kupp, you can't cover that guy worth nothing. But I was like, man, the Bengals just got hit in the mouth right out the gate. And then, they had that great drive and that great, trick play drawn up by Zach Taylor, Joe Mixon pass, touchdown. And then, bam, it's a 3-point game again. But, yeah, I thought, like Hunter, y'all were talking about the O-line in the first half versus the second half. In the first half, they did everything they needed to do, honestly. 1 or 2 sacks, you'll live with that. And in the second half, I don't know if they just got worn down or what it was, and not only that, towards the end, Joe Burrow tweaked his knee. And then if you really watched those last couple drives that the Bengals had, he pretty much caught the ball and threw it. He wasn't moving around very much side to side.
I think you could tell he was being pretty ginger. I wouldn't be surprised if it came out that he sprained his knee or did something.
Yeah, he definitely got something tweaked there for sure. So, that doesn't help either, that he can't escape, those guys running around the edge and up the middle with Donald and Gaines. And my man, Ashawn Robinson, played a great game too.
Well, yeah,
So,
you remember, I forget whether it was the Chiefs game or the round before that, but Burrow had 2 huge scrambles on like 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 at the end of that game.
Big
And
one.
obviously he wasn't able to do that yesterday.
yeah. But yeah, I thought that, I mean, it was kind of a night and day deal, but kind of arguing against myself here. Is in the third quarter, in the first 5 seconds, all of a sudden the Bengals are up 7, you know. And then I was like, oh man, like y'all were just talking about the second half, man. I don't know what it was with the Bengals in these playoffs. Man, they played like a whole different ball club in the second half. But then they just stalled out, and and it was just kind of, and like you were talking about, that drop ball by Tyler Boyd, man, that's gonna haunt him forever, because they were at like the 50-yard line, and if he didn't get that one, they'd have been 4th and inches, and they probably would have gone for it. But then I think maybe the Rams scored that time, or the possession after.
Yeah,
but
that killed him. I thought, man, Bengals fans are going to think about that for a long, long time, because that is just game changer. Because he had the first down, he had it easy.
Oh yeah,
looking upfield, just kind of football 1-on-1. You see it happen, even to the best players in the world, and that's like, oh, that's going to be a killer for him.
Yeah. And then down the stretch there, in the fourth quarter, the Rams, I felt like that Rams possession inside the 20-yard line was like 25 plays. I mean, that was wild. Like, I felt like that. I watched, that was probably like the longer part of the game, was right there at the end, and they kept getting those penalties, extended the drive. And I thought, honestly, the first one on 3rd and goal, I thought that was a pretty bad call. I thought the linebacker played it pretty good. But the last 2, those were holds, and those were always killer because they happened in end zone. So now they're on the 1-yard line. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty tough break for the Bengals. But then, hell, even after that, they had time, and they had timeouts to just get a field goal. That extra point that the guy fumbled the snap turned out to be massive. And who's to say if it's 24-20, did the Bengals even try to run that ball? I mean, they're probably throwing the ball that whole drive, So I don't know. I thought it was kind of, and like you were saying, I'm happy for Matt Stafford. That guy's been through a lot. Cooper Kupp, incredible story. Every time I think about it, it's just awesome. And for Odell, he's not my favorite, but he's also been through a lot. Had some rough years with the Giants and the Browns. And I also, my guy Von Miller. So it was cool. Yeah, 2 rings for Von. But yeah, I was happy that those guys won, but also I'm sick for those Bengals fans. I mean but like y'all were talking about going forward, at least they have like young talent to build around. Like, that wasn't just some one-hit wonder team. I think that team's going to be a problem and a great competitive team for years to come, So I think that if draft some old linemen, use some of that salary cap, get some couple big guys up front, and I think they need to get a couple corners. And if I think they do that, they can really build even more on that, because wideouts, they're there. Uzama, he emerged. He's a great tight end. Joe Burrow's still young. And Joe Mixon really had another good year. So I think offensively they're fine. Their D-line played pretty well too. And hell, that I forget his name, number 55, their linebacker. I can't remember his name, but he had a great game in coverage too. And as well,
the guy that had that phantom call called on him.
Yeah, he had a great game too. So I don't know. I thought it was, it wasn't, the shootout, like 35-31 type game, but I enjoyed it, so.
Yeah, it was a really good game. It wasn't a blowout. I was a little afraid that, it is a possibility the Rams just come out here and just steamroll them. That didn't happen. It was a fun game, really underwhelming end with the Bengals not converting that 4th down, at least getting McPherson a chance. Yeah. I've got a million thoughts here on some things you said, Cud, but one thing is Cooper Kupp has got a really strong case of being the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
And who would have thought that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, some great receivers in the league right now, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, so forth. Cooper Kupp is up there with those guys, man.
Oh, yeah.
He's got him a quarterback in Stafford, and Kupp's got 10 catches for 100-something yards every game and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he is He's tough, man. And so I kind of want to answer the question of, who's to blame for the Bengals loss? It was a tough loss for the Bengals. They didn't go out there and lay an egg. I mean, if you want to get particular, I'd say the Zach Taylor 3rd and 1 call you were talking about, Cud, to run the ball there with P. Ryan. I thought that was a really strange move. In the first quarter, when they were on the 50, it looked like they kind of panicked and went for it on 4th and 1. And Burrow really wasn't settled into the game yet. Made a quick throw. He had Higgins open on the post or whatever that was, an out route or whatever. Hunter, you talked about that. Wow, he was wide open, and Burrow missed him. Mm-hmm. I didn't really love that call. But my biggest beef with the whole game was, why is Eli Apple covering Cooper Kupp for half of this football game?
Yeah.
I mean, that just does not seem like a very wise strategy move. I mean, Eli Apple is not an elite cornerback at all. He was really bad for the Giants. He was really bad for the Saints. He's been okay for the Bengals for the most part, but what is Mike Hilton is their best corner cut? Am I right?
Yeah, I'd say him. And honestly, I'm surprised they didn't put Jesse Bates, their safety, over the top on him. He's a great safety.
There was too much one-on-one coverage with Cooper Kupp, who's the hottest wide receiver in the league.
Yeah.
And the weakest player on the field, Eli Apple, covering him. Well, so that I didn't quite understand.
And then not only that, Odell goes down in the very first part of the game. So now it's freaking Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford, really. That whole drive that they went down the field and scored that touchdown, I think Cooper Kupp had 5 catches on that drive alone.
Put another guy on Cooper Kupp. I mean,
they literally said, I'm just going to throw it to you and you're not going to beat him. And that's exactly what happened.
What other weapons do the Rams have? Kendall Blanton, the backup tight end?
He didn't even play.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Robert Woods hurt.
Yeah.
And the run game was an absolute non-factor for the Rams.
Yeah.
They could not get the run going. I mean, I don't even – I mean, Van Jefferson, I guess, is a threat. He had a couple catches in the game. But, man, just how in the world are you not focused on Cooper Kupp at all times? And
yeah,
it was a big blunder for the Bengals, I thought. And it's from a strategy standpoint, from a scheme standpoint. But, man, it was a fun game. Another really fun football season in the book. Man, as an AFC fan, it's a tough road. I mean, you got Burrow and the Bengals. You got Allen and the Bills, Herbert and the Chargers, Mahomes and the Chiefs, Lamar and the Ravens. The Patriots are the freaking Patriots. I mean, it's going to be an absolute war the next few years. So I don't know what I want to go to next. I guess since we're naming all the QBs, let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. We can go back and touch on Super Bowl a little bit. So I thought about this question earlier today, and Hunter, I'll let you go. So we're just talking about all the quarterbacks in the NFL. What NFL QB would you start your franchise with if I gave you the keys to a franchise today? Who are you taking in the draft?
All right. So I was thinking about this, and I have 5 names.
There's 5 guys we can all probably agree on.
Yeah.
There's really
However, I think there's one right answer.
Yeah.
And I think it's Pat Mahomes.
No.
And I say that because age is no issue in any of the guys I'm considering. They're all young. Pat's 26.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. He's played in 4 conference championship games, and he's only 26. And man, I just think that there's just obviously the arm talent goes without saying. All these guys can throw the football. I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, how the state of the quarterback in the NFL is the best it's ever been. Even though Cud disagrees, he's just wrong.
Terrible take.
And all these guys can play quarterback, and they're all young, and these guys are going to be the face of the NFL for the next decade. But man, I think Pat has proven that he can win a Super Bowl. He's proven that he can be the guy to carry the team, and all his teammates look to him at the end of a game, and he's a leader of men. You can tell, even though he's probably not the most vocal guy, you can tell the way that people look to him at the end of a football game that people want to perform with him. And man, I think he's the only one of these guys who's shown what he can do over a period of time long enough to justify me giving him the keys to my franchise. That's the right answer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of these are the wrong answer.
Yeah.
Cut. I'll let you go first, and then I'll give my thoughts on who I pick.
Yeah, we're pretty much comparing apples to oranges here.
There's probably 5 guys to choose from.
Yeah,
Mahomes, Herbert, and Lamar, right?
Yeah, Well, I'm going with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I mean that guy. I think he's got the best cannon on him. Like he can throw it so deep and it's so effortless. And also what impresses me the most about Josh Allen is, dude, that guy can run. And not only that, when you see him run, do you rarely see him slide? Like he's running, putting the shoulder down. He's going.
That may be a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it might catch up to him one day, but I love that.
If this is my franchise, I'm telling him to learn how to slide quick.
Yeah, but I love the Bills, and every one of these seasons that they just kind of fall short, they're just getting hungrier and hungrier. And one of these years they're going to do it. They might not, but like we were saying, I mean, he's got to play, Allen and Herbert and Lamar. That's tough. And to get past all three of those guys there's not a tougher road to go down. But yeah, I'd probably say Josh Allen for my squad.
Yeah, so those five, I mean, those are two unreal QBs. I mean, if you're any of the franchises, you're happy with either one of those guys, Allen or Mahomes. So those are the five that I came up with, those five that we all agree on. I love Lamar. Injuries kind of scare me with him, especially this year. I love Herbert. He kind of has his kind of bad game every now and then where he throws a couple picks and kind of look rough. Phenomenal QB. I'd take it any day of the week on my team. So it came down to Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow. And there's one thing Burrow and Allen have in common. They both took over really bad franchises at the time. The Bills hadn't been good since the 90s. The Bengals may be a bottom 5 franchise in all of professional sports. I mean, they've been a dump forever. I mean, Jets, Lions range. So Allen's got a really good arm talent. I love Josh Allen. I think it's a coin flip between him and Burrow, in my opinion. But I'm going with Burrow just because of what he did this year, taking that young Bengals team, a loser franchise for years and years and years, delivers them their first playoff win in 30 years in year 2. Year 1, he tore his ACL. He only played 6 games, maybe 7 games, and they weren't going to be very good last year. I mean, what he did already in this short span, and Burrow doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He does not turn the ball over that much. He's a leader. Everybody loves playing for the guy. That's who I'm starting my franchise with. I'm going with Joe Burrow. The guy wins everywhere he's at. He's the man. He's got that moxie like Trent was talking about. So that'd be my pick. Can't go wrong with any of the guys. But after watching what Burrow did with the Bengals, I mean, that's who I'm going with. And, I love – and I'll say this about Mahomes is Mahomes, when he took over that job, he had everything. He got Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches ever. Tyreek Hill, fastest receiver in the league. Travis Kelce is probably the best tight end in the league. And they've had a good old line since he's been there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was in a great situation. Allen and Burrow, not so much.
Let me ask you this.
And that's not his fault.
Of the 3 guys that we just talked about, let's do this. From here on out, from today moving forward, which one of those quarterbacks wins more Super Bowls? Oh. So I'll start at 0. I know Pat's got one, but let's start at 0.
I'd probably lean towards Pat just by a hair, just because I think that those guys beat each other.
I'm going to go Pat as well, just because the Chiefs they've got more pieces. But, man, those guys are going to all beat each other up for years.
Yeah.
If the Chargers can get some players around Herbert, they're going to jump in that conversation too. The Jets are screwed, man. This is making me sad. We've got no chance.
Hey, there's plenty of room on that Cowboys bandwagon, man.
And you got the Patriots too. Mac Jones had a really nice year, and the Patriots are the Patriots, so they're going to be in the mix.
Yeah, and I was going to say, is there somebody we haven't talked about that you think should get a consideration?
Mac Jones, and we didn't talk any NFC guys. I'm not really big on Kyler Murray. You could throw him in there. I love Russell Wilson. He's kind of back into his career.
But I'm a homer. I thought about Dak, but he just hadn't been able to do it for consistently enough.
Yeah. Say Dak.
Yeah.
I love Dak. I wouldn't put Dak in the category with these guys, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
But honestly,
there's a lot of really good players, though.
I think like you're saying, that the Chargers do have the pieces. They got Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, who are awesome, and Austin Eckler, great.
But just the Chargers
run between the tackles and catch the ball like a receiver. As far as the offense goes, there's really not a whole lot to add.
Yeah, I mean, Herbert threw for 5,000 yards this year.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the pieces on offense to move the football.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Cook's an older tight end, but hell, he's still playing good ball. Now, I mean, you could add some people on defense, with Derwin James, but I mean, they're not a bad club. I mean, they don't need to make a whole lot of changes. I mean, all three of those teams are, pretty much there.
Chargers got to get off the losing stigma of just being the Chargers.
Yeah.
We got to get through. If Yeager was on the pod, I guess he may go with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, he would definitely say Kirk Cousins.
We just donate Yeager's pick to be Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, he's about to hit his prime.
Yeah. According to Yeager. But no, I don't think we left anybody off. I think the AFC is kind of more loaded in the QB range. The NFC's got the older quarterbacks, Rodgers, Russell Wilson, of last year. So I think the features in the AFC. So I want to touch on one more thing on the Super Bowl, and then we can move on a little basketball talk. The officiating in the NFL was a disaster this year. It was about as bad as I can remember. It was in the conversation a lot. I don't know how you can fix it. It's the hard now. I'm very critical of the referees, as most fans are. Officiating a live football game is probably one of the hardest things a human could do, because it's easy to sit on the couch eating a bag of chips, watching this in the replay. Oh, that was a horrible call. You see the refs, they got to do it in live time. I mean, that's hard to do, really hard. Basketball. Yeah. But man, there's just some egregious stuff that's getting missed, and game-changing stuff. In the Super Bowl, the Jalen Ramsey missed call was bad. The face mask, Higgins, right? Drug him with a ground. Let it go. Other than that, it was fine. I had no beef with it. They were kind of letting it be an edgy kind of game. That's kind of how those two teams play. I'm fine with that. If you want to call it that game, call it like that for 60 minutes. Don't get a wild hair with a minute and a half to go and decide to call this phantom holding call.
Yeah, that was horrible.
It was third down, wasn't it? Was it second down?
It was third and goal on the 8.
Massive call to make that on third and goal, because now it's fourth and goal from the 8 with a minute and a half to go.
Changes everything.
Bengals win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a makeup call for the Jalen Ramsey miss or what, but man, that was a ticky-tack hold call.
Yeah.
The holding call on the back end, I think one of them might have been on Bates. That was probably a hold. I mean, I was with the later ones. Those were, man, that hold when Stafford kind of threw it in the dirt on third and goal. I mean, that was such a bad call. And I mean, if I'm a Bengals fan, I'm throwing up at that, because that's brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, the NFL had a lot of games this year where there was a lot of ticky-tack calls, throughout. It was the whole game was called that way. This game wasn't. I had no beef with the officials. They let the Ramsey play go. I think that was just a miss, but it went in with how the game was called. It was just, we're going to let these guys play. We're going to stay out of it. And I was fine with that. And then you jump in the game and make that call. That was tough, man. I really hated to see that.
I think the Ramsey missed call was as bad as the phantom holding call. It was really bad. And if that Ramsey missed call had happened in the middle of the fourth quarter, we'd be talking about that as one of the worst missed calls. I mean, to be up there with the Saints missed PI a couple years ago.
Man, that was horrible too.
Yeah, I mean, this is just as blatant, I think. I mean, the guy grabbed his face mask and turned his head right before the pass got there. I mean, that's as blatant as it gets, but he just did it shielded, like he was shielding the view of the referee, so the ref couldn't see it, I guess. I don't know. But to answer your question, I don't know what you do about it, because, I mean, there are already too many stoppages in football as it is. It's not like you want to go like we'll just review it. Oh, we'll just review these calls. Like, no, that's not what we need, because it's already such a slow game. So I don't know what you do.
The Super Bowl was like 4 hours and 15 minutes. The game's crazy long. But I mean, I don't want to go back to reviewing, because the reviewing pass interference thing a couple years ago was just a literal disaster of an idea. So, I mean, we got to look at the officials, in my opinion. I mean, what's the age demographic of the officials?
I mean, outside of some guys that have been there for 20 years, they're pretty young. I mean,
I don't know, man. There are a lot of older guys, older referees that still do this, like 6, 7.
What it came down to me this year in the penalties was the personal fouls. I mean, I understand, they're trying to clean up the league, fighting and all that. if someone doesn't throw a punch, you keep that flag in your pocket. I
Yep.
mean, guys are going to talk trash and push each other. That's a part of not
Let
only
'em.
football, basketball, any sport. I mean, that's a part of the game. You don't like the guy you're playing because you want to beat him. That's just a part of sports. And that was horrible. How many games did we watch this year on a big play where it'd be some taunting call or something with some O lineman and D lineman pushing each other? Boom, there's 15 yards right there. 15 yards can take a team from having to punt a ball to basically stalling out the next 4 plays and kicking a field goal.
Well, think of last night. What about that idiot out in sweatpants celebrating in the end zone?
Oh,
Vernon Hargraves.
Yeah, I mean, he was an idiot for doing that, but why on earth is that a 15-yard penalty? The
yeah.
ball's dead. The play's over. I mean, that didn't affect anything having to do with the game. And they called a penalty on this guy just because he's got sweatpants on out there celebrating with the team. If he was in, full dressed out, he'd be fine. And to me, stuff like that is stupid because it has no impact on the game whatsoever. It's not like a pass interference or a hold or an offside where it affects the way the game is played. Let those guys celebrate any way they want to.
Yeah.
That doesn't affect the game. To me, that changed the way the Bengals approached their last drive in the first half because instead of being on the 25, maybe they're 3 plays away from field goal range. Now they're on the 10, and so they're just trying to get away from the end zone.
Yeah, and honestly, it came down, if you really watch the season, it came like some different crews, they let them play.
Yeah.
And some crews, they called stuff if you breathed on a guy.
John
Hockley, his crew was horrible this year.
All year long.
That Bucks-Rams game, there was like 5 personal foul calls in the first quarter. And none of them were warranted. I mean, I understand you want to keep it straight and, clean game as much as you can, but that's got to change because the rest of that other stuff, sadly, they're going to miss PI calls. They're going to miss holds. That's a part of it, and that's going to happen no matter how many cameras they got on the field, reviews, all that kind of stuff. That's going to happen. But the personal foul calls have got to stop.
Yeah, I think that's a league issue though, Cut. I don't think that's the officials. I think that's what they're trying to enforce from up top. These garbage.
Yeah, I'm sure Goodell and those guys are telling them, hey, don't let anything slide. But at the same time, you got to have some common sense here. I mean, like if I'm standing there and y'all are pushing each other, I'm going to say, hey guys, split it up.
Yeah.
I'm not hitting you upside the head. I mean.
Yeah, I don't like the whole mindset of, oh, we can't let anything slide. What, you can't let what slide? Because the guy's like taunting somebody because he just ran past him and scored? Yeah, he has every right to taunt the guy. Yeah. You can't catch me. I'm going to celebrate because I scored a touchdown. That's how it should be. You shouldn't penalize a guy for rubbing his face. Like that. Yeah. That's the dumbest thing to me.
Football's the most emotional game out there. I mean, it is crazy how high the tension and emotions are in these big games like this. Can't take emotion out of football. I mean, why does the league even care? Well, I don't understand why this taunting is such a big deal, or unsportsmanlike conduct, or just like the dude celebrating in sweatpants. Who cares? Nobody was affected by that dude out in the end zone celebrating. It took him years to finally allow him to celebrate a touchdown. A dude dances in the end zone.
Unbelievable.
Years.
What are we doing?
I don't know.
I didn't think I was going to care that much. We started talking about it. Now I'm pissed.
I mean, it drives me nuts, man. That's a league issue. That's something they got to figure out in the offseason about how we're going to fix that. That and these garbage roughing the passing penalties when he gets whiffed in the head by somebody's hand, just touches his helmet. It's one thing if you get clubbed over the head and hit the helmet, but just whiffing his helmet's 15 yards now.
Well, so they'll give a roughing the passer call when he has the ball in his hands.
I know.
If you have the ball in your hands, I don't care what position you're playing, you can get killed. I mean, like headshots and stuff. I mean, you can get smoked. I mean, that's just terrible. Yeah. And I hated those calls. I feel so bad for those D linemen that are rushing the passer and they get pushed down and they're diving, just trying to get to him, and they'll hit them low and they get a call. That's just a tough play. Like I get it, with the quarterback's knees and all that stuff, but 99.9% of those, low hits, that guy's not going for the knee. He got pushed down by some pig and he hit him in the knee.
It's fine to quarterbacks protect their big money guys and not get them hurt, but it's gone too far. We've gone past the line. We've got to find a middle ground. So we got to move on though. We've been rolling on this for a while. But another football season down, boys. I'm sad. 23-20. Rams beat the Bengals. We got to wait until September, August for some more football. But it is basketball season now, boys. It's March Madness right around the corner. We'll get into that. So that is going to close the book on football talk for 903 Sports. We'll get into
the USFL.
Yeah, is that this summer?
Yeah.
Go Houston Gamblers.
We'll jump in a little bit of that. We'll talk some hoops, and baseball season's also around the corner if they can get this
hopefully
crap figured out. So, Cut, I want to jump into who the hell are you this week? Then we'll talk some hoops. There's one guy who has got to be. I really hope it's the guy I'm thinking of, but I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, so it came down to two different guys, and I just had to land on Vernon Hargreaves.
Oh,
I was at a loss for words. This is the Super Bowl. This is not some practice game where it was some guy on the team made some one-handed catch, and you wanted to run down there and celebrate with him. Not only was that guy on the field, he was in the opposite corner of the end zone. And not only that, if you're watching the game, you're like, oh my God, is there some fan out there on the field? He's in sweatpants. That was the most boneheaded play I've ever seen. And not only that, it was one guy. So clearly the other 40 guys on the team that weren't suited out knew I shouldn't run out there, but hey, that was a cool play.
Seen that before. Literally never seen that before.
It doesn't get more boneheaded than that.
Florida Gator.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go Eli Applecut for who the hell are you?
Oh, hell, he was a nominee too. And honestly, I was thinking about Zach Taylor on that 3rd-and-1 run call. I was sitting here watching it with my buddy, and I looked over and I said, did they just run that ball?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. So yeah, that the Vernon Hargreaves, man, what the hell are you doing, man?
Go ahead, Cam. That who the hell are you, or what the hell are you doing? That play, Vernon Hargreaves, is a key to this segment right here.
Yeah.
That's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. I didn't see it live. When the Bengals started that drive on like the 9 or 10, I was like, did he run out of the end zone? I just missed it.
Yeah.
And to the replay, idiot coming on the field in his sweatpants celebrating with the team.
Yeah.
I get it doesn't affect the play, but come on, man. Just stay on the sideline and just celebrate over there. Like that's not that hard. What are you doing? You're not even suited up, Hargreaves. What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. I just got done talking about how that doesn't affect the game and it shouldn't be a penalty, but it is a rule, right?
Yeah.
And while it's a rule, you got to know better.
And everyone knows that rule.
Yeah, it's a blatant rule.
Exactly. Even though I think it's a stupid rule, it's still a rule. Like you got to be smart enough to know, hey, it's the Super Bowl. Yeah. I'm in sweatpants and flip-flops. I probably shouldn't run out there and celebrate in the end zone at the end of the first half.
Yeah. There's a reason that was the first time that's happened. Because no one else is dumb enough to do that.
If he had pads and a helmet on, nobody probably would have even noticed.
No.
Out there in sweatpants, sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Vernon Hargreaves.
I'm surprised he wasn't videoing it.
Yeah, that was just horrible. Florida Gator. Stetson, if you're listening, get your freaking football program in order over there with your Gator.
Good luck.
All right, so we'll move on. We got a little NBA trade deadline. I want to read through some of these trades. This was on Thursday, I believe, right? Massive day of the NBA. Twitter was going nuts. So early, the Kings, for whatever reason, decided to trade the future of their franchise, Tyrese Halliburton, for Sabonis. They gave up Halliburton, Hield, and I think maybe Tristan Thompson for Sabonis. It was a very strange move. The Kings are as poverty as it gets. I love Sabonis. No disrespect to him at all. But it's not like the Kings are in win-now mode. They're still going to miss the playoffs with or without Sabonis. Don't really know why you give up Halliburton there. That was odd. We also had the Spurs, Cubs Spurs, trading away Derek White to my Celtics, giving up Derek White for Josh Richardson, Romeo Langford, and a pick. There was also the Mavs dumping Kristaps Porzingis for Spencer Dinwiddie and Bertans. That was a really strange trade. Feel like Dallas really wanted to move Porzingis and couldn't find any suitors for him, and then panic because that was like a buzzer beater trade. So that was a very strange move. And then the big one that everybody wants to talk about. This one happened earlier in the day. The 76ers and the Nets make a big trade. Ben Simmons, Andre Drummond, Seth Curry, and a couple first go to Philly for James Harden and Paul Millsap. And we talked about this quite a bit on Thursday, and we said, save it for the pod, save it for the pod. So we'll jump into it a little bit. This is the superstar for Ben Simmons, a great trade for him. It's a great trade for Harden. They were both disgruntled and very upset with where they were, wanted to move on. Apparently, Harden was pretty upset about the situation in the Nets with Kyrie not playing and then KD being hurt and just wasn't happy there. Another forced trade for James Harden in 2 years. And then you got Ben Simmons, who was never going to play for Philadelphia again after the disaster that was last year's playoffs with him not shooting the ball, and then Doc Rivers and Embiid just hammering him in the press right after. Like, what are you doing? So they got the deal done. I personally believe that the Sixers won this trade because they got the superstar of the trade, James Harden, and they were able to move a guy who was immovable for the entire season. I mean, nobody wanted Ben Simmons because, one, they don't know if Ben Simmons is even going to play. The guy's going through some stuff right now. He's not playing. And the guy cannot shoot the basketball at all. He's borderline has, like, in golf, you get the yips if you can't make a 2-footer. He's got the yips when he shoots the basketball. He's a great defender, great rebounder, solid, really good passer. He's got a lot of really talented aspects of his game, and he's young. He's like 25 maybe. So they were able to move him. I thought that was big. And they didn't give up a ton, the Sixers. They got Ben Simmons, who's never going to play again. They gave up Drummond, who's well past his prime. Gave up a couple picks, but those are going to be late first-round picks anyway. And those guys may not even play in the league. And Seth Curry hurts. That hurts your depth. He's having a really nice year shooting the ball. So I think Philly won the trade for that reason, and because the Nets gave up like 8 future first-round picks or whatever it was, 5, 6, or 7, to get Harden. And you got him for a year and a half.
Get out of here.
You got Harden for a year and a half. You make a trade like that, you want Harden to stay there and retire and win a ring. The Harden, Kyrie, and KD experiment, those guys played 16 games together. That's a failure. That's a failure. You were able to move Harden, and we'll see if Ben Simmons is good or not. If he fits well with the Nets, I don't know. You got 2-point guard system. What are you going to do? So I think Philly won the trade. But Hunter, I'll let you jump in. I know both of you disagree with me, so I'll let y'all go.
Those are two different questions. The question of who won this trade, and is the James Harden and Brooklyn experiment a success? Those are two separate questions. You can't say, oh, Philly won the trade because Brooklyn gave all these picks to Houston. Those are two separate trades. You can't, that's stupid. So no, Philly did not win this trade. Okay. Now, I want to start out by saying that I think both teams are better off after this trade. So it's not like one team lost.
I agree.
I do think Brooklyn probably comes out better, and maybe I only feel like that because I do think they're a more dangerous team if guys can stay healthy and Ben Simmons comes back as some sort of a competent basketball player again. But I really like the basketball fit in Brooklyn with Simmons, KD, and Kyrie, assuming those three ever decide to play basketball at the same time.
Yes.
That's going to be the biggest question mark because Kyrie can only play away games. KD's hurt all the time, and Ben Simmons doesn't know how to play basketball anymore.
Kyrie's 8 games, I think 8 or 9 I read today. That's all he's got left in the season.
Can he?
He can't.
I don't know. Has he talked about getting vaccinated?
He's not going to do it. So he can only play.
So he's like planted in the ground. I'm not doing it.
And he can't play Toronto either. They're in the same division. So they still got to go to Toronto a couple times. And they got a lot of home games left. He's only got 8 or 9 games left this season.
Where are they in the standing? They're in the play-in.
They're in the
right now, right?
Now the Nets are a mess. They've lost 11 straight games. KD's hurt.
Yeah.
Which also ties into my argument of Philly won this trade. Because Joel Embiid is having probably the best season of his career. And they were wasting it because Ben Simmons couldn't play with him. And now you added probably the second or third most talented offensive player in the league, James Harden, to go in that pick and roll offense with Joel Embiid.
Yeah, the pick and roll is going to be good in Philly, but
he's not playing basketball in Ben Simmons. He wasn't going to play for Philly ever again.
I know that's why it's good for Philly that he got him out of there. But I still think that if we can see KD, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons together, that's significantly more dangerous than James Harden and Embiid.
Disagree fully.
And And you've got Seth Curry, who is a very, very nice piece
Nice
to
piece.
have. Cud, what do you think? Help me out here.
Okay. I'm going to start from the top. The Kings are garbage. I mean, every single season in the draft, Cameron, what do we say? Did the Kings just draft another point guard?
Another guard.
I mean, it blows me away.
Don't hate on my guy Davion.
You know, and I'm not saying that Halliburton isn't a great player, but they didn't need him from the start.
Yeah, but he's going to be the future of that team.
I know, but they didn't need him. They need a lot of help in other spots. So I didn't think they should have drafted him to begin with. And then they ended up taking him and then trading him.
Well, but could you say that now they have the help in the other spot with Sabonis?
Yeah, they did need a post, and that helps them. But like Cameron said, they need a lot more. Like they're not like I don't know, like a middle of the road team that one guy like Sabonis could take them to that next level and maybe win a couple NBA playoff series.
You trade superstar if you're making a playoff push. The Kings aren't going to make the playoffs, so why make that move?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Sabonis is still pretty young. He's like 25, right?
He's a little older than that.
But he's still young.
Okay, so he still has several years.
Yeah.
And they have some good young. They still have some decent young pieces on the team. And I mean, what do you think they are? One or two guys away from being a playoff team now?
I'd say three.
How good De'Aaron Fox is going to end up being. I thought Halliburton was their best player.
And they got rid of Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield had really fell
that's
into
true. That's true. In my head, Hield was still on the roster. That's true.
I mean, Buddy, he's not some superstar, but he fit
He's a good piece
for what he needed to do is score the ball. And now
he's a rotation guy on a playoff team.
Exactly. So I thought the Kings pretty much made a lateral move. They didn't get any better. They didn't, they still got a lot to do. Now the Pacers, on the other hand, I think that was a pretty good deal. Halliburton's great. They still have Victor Oladipo? No, he plays for Miami.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought that was a great move, and Buddy Hield's also, like we were just saying, a good scorer. So I think the Pacers didn't fall down, and they still got Miles Turner. I don't really like him, but he's a big center, and he can shoot threes. He spreads the floor. So I thought that the Kings, I don't know, it's just another deal. Like, what are you doing?
It's a head scratcher.
Yeah. And the Mavs, I think they just desperately wanted him gone. So they just were like, let's upload him. Even if we don't keep Dinwiddie for, 2 or 3 years, we can get rid of him. And then now we got all this money to sign somebody to a max deal. And as long as Luke is there, they'll be able to get a superstar to come there. That's not a problem. So I think that was kind of a weird deal. And my Spurs, we made some good moves because now we have a bunch of draft picks. We have 4 draft picks now. But I did like Derek White. He's a good player. He plays good D, and he can shoot the ball. Good facilitator. Celtics got a good one.
Thank you,
but also, I've always liked Josh Richardson. He's not scared to shoot the ball. And right now, the Spurs need scoring bad, real bad. So, and we need a center too, but that's all another deal. But yeah, so that was another one. And then was there another one, Cameron, or is it?
Oh, the Nets just broke their 11-game losing streak while I'm clowning them. Of course, they beat the Kings.
Probably by 30.
Because the Kings didn't have Halliburton.
Beat them by 25.
Yeah. But to go back to the main big trade of the trade deadline was, like you were saying, Joel Embiid and James Harden are going to be deadly. Very deadly.
So good.
And I think they'll both really like playing with each other too. So I don't think there won't be any locker room, hoopla and all the stuff behind the scenes like Joel and Ben didn't get along.
Their games are well, those two.
Yeah. I think the Sixers will be just fine as far as that goes. But for the Nets, on the other hand, I thought they did well. Like they got the thing. Okay, so I do not like Ben Simmons. I don't think he's a very good player. I wouldn't call him a superstar at all. But for the Nets team, the way it's set up now, they don't need him to score 20 points. Everyone in Philly was like, he's got to have 20 with Joel's 30. In this case, he does not. That guy gets 10 points a game, 12 points a game for the Nets. They're going to win a lot of the times because he's a great defender. He can rebound. and KD and Kyrie can shoot the lights out. And
he's in a position right now. The Nets can get more. They can maximize Ben Simmons, and Philly couldn't.
And then Seth Curry, like we were just talking about the Kyrie situation. Seth Curry is an awesome guard. I've always loved Seth Curry. He can shoot the lights out too. Great facilitator, and I think he can pick up the slack while Kyrie is doing his old COVID deal, on the home games. Now, and also they got Andre Drummond, and he is not the Drummond that years in the past would have 20 boards and 25 points and 5 blocks. Now, on the other hand, they need a rim protector and a rebounder and the guy to put back some dunks. That's fine. That's all they need him to do. So with the players that they got, they fit the holes perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And not only that, they get 2 first rounders. And the Sixers are going to be good. So they're not going to be, top 10 picks, but that is still 2 picks. And honestly, I hate the draft pick thing of if you're not in the top 10 or 12, then you're done. Like whoever you get is kind of, you might have a gold mine there and there. But there's been a lot of players over time, not even just in basketball, that are picked up and they're equally just as hard as workers, and they'll just build and be great players. So I think at the end of the day, the Nets, I think they slightly get a win there because I think it fits them going forward. And not only that, when Joe Harris gets back, he's one of my favorite players in the league. Shoot the lights out, hard player, great rebounder. So I think and then, they got Patty Mills still, my man. So, I think the Nets did just fine. And I think if I'm Ben Simmons, I'm coming out like a bat out of hell.
Yeah.
The entire basketball world hates my guts. And now I'm playing with KD and Kyrie Irving. If that's not an opportunity to say, hey guys, I can play basketball, then I don't know what is.
You should be counting his lucky stars right now to get that situation with those guys for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Cut, I think you said it perfectly. You said that they kind of filled all the needs that they had. And, there's that saying where you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Well, It seems like they have a bunch of square pegs for square holes. Like everybody has a role and they all fit together perfectly if they can just get on the basketball court at the same time.
I agree.
And unfortunately with Kyrie's situation, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And KD just can't stay healthy, which is such a bummer because he's so good at basketball. And it's not even close when he's healthy. But I'd like to see them healthy and all on the court together, and then the Sixers healthy and kicking. I think that'd be an awesome playoff series if we could get it. I think that'd be just for the storyline purposes. That'd be great.
Man, could you imagine Ben Simmons coming back to Philly and Harden coming back to Brooklyn? And those fans are going to wear those two out because Harden is not a well-liked guy in Brooklyn, and Ben Simmons is not a well-liked guy.
Yeah, Philly's a bad sports town to be hated.
Yeah, not a fan base you want to be hated by.
Yeah. Hey, I have a question. So obviously, I don't know the NBA as well as y'all do. We were talking about the Mavs, and there's going to be cap space potentially to sign a star to go alongside Luka. What kind of player would y'all get to play alongside Luka? Because he is such a unique guy and a unique star. How do you get what skill set would complement him to be the best for the team?
Kristaps Porzingis, if he could have stayed healthy, he wouldn't made out of tissue paper.
Yeah.
He made that trade. I was like, man, that's going to be really nice in Dallas. And he couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah. I think that's exactly the type of player, your taller guy, spread the floor, rebound, shoot the three, shoot the elbow, take guys to the hole. That is the perfect, Porzingis, KD, they're 7 foot 6'11", and they can do anything. So I think if they had someone like just a great small forward and like a pretty good power forward, I think they could do it because they already have some good role players right now.
Mm-hmm.
Zabonis would have been a really good guy to put with Luka.
Yeah.
Zabonis would be awesome in Dallas. See, I'll say this about Dallas is Mark Cuban better be careful. If they don't put somebody around Luka soon, he's going to want to leave, man.
I would.
They have not been able to put guys around Luka. Luka might be the best player in the NBA right now, top 5 at least. I mean, he is. I think after they traded Porzingis, he's dropped 45 2 nights in a row. I mean, he is playing really well right now.
Yeah.
But they don't really have any. The Mavs are a lot of role players. Like, I don't know if they're scaring anybody in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's Luka and then just a bunch of guys.
Yeah, like a bunch of solid role players. There's no disrespect to guys like Brunson and Dwight Powell and so, but they're not scaring the Sun right now.
No.
They're fringe starters at best on a good playoff team.
Yeah, so they better find somebody to put with Luka. The Porzingis was unfortunate. The guy just literally can't stay healthy, and is for whatever reason that's just going to be the killer of his career.
Yeah,
so that definitely hurt. We're running way low on time, but I want to touch on one thing. I got one good thing going for me in sports, and that's the Boston Celtics. We've won 8 in a row. We're the best defensive team in the league. Derek White, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Time Lord Robert Williams. We can play some D. Routed off 8 in a row. I really, really think the Derek White trade was really nice for Boston. Gives us a good young point guard. We badly needed a point guard, really bad, and made a nice deal with the Spurs. I was really excited about that trade. Celtics are going to be really good defensively. Jason Tatum's one of the best players in the world. I'm excited. I gave up on this Celtics team earlier in the year. Something wasn't right with this team. We got rid of a lot of excess guys on our bench this trade deadline. We've kind of got our core group of guys now. Tatum's playing well. Jaylen Brown's unreal basketball player. Robert Williams, Aggie's really coming in his own cut. I didn't really know about the guy when we drafted him. He's turned out to be a really nice player.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for Celtics basketball. Big game against the Sixers Tuesday night without Harden. Philly doesn't have him. I think Boston could be a pretty good little sleeper team in the NBA right now. And one other plug-in sleeper team in the NBA. How about the Cleveland Cavaliers? In the way nobody saw the Cavs being this good. Darius Garland's turned out to be an unreal player. And they're doing all this without their best player in Colin Sexton.
Yeah.
Mobley's been really good. Kevin Love still got some left in the tank. I mean, the Cavs have been playing well. So props to that front office for getting that thing turned around over there as quickly as they have.
Yeah, I think my team to beat though right now in the NBA is the Memphis Grizzlies.
Oof.
The Memphis Grizzlies are they play tough ball. And just like we were talking about the Mavs, they kind of have some guys that they're not going to blow your eyes off the stat sheet and anything like that, but they complement each other really well. And they play good D, and Ja Morant is just ridiculous of an athlete. I mean, they're the number 3 seed in the West right now. And pretty much all my life, other than, Marc Gasol, Zach Randolph, and Mike Conley days, Tony Allen, those guys, the Grizzlies have been one of the worst franchises in sports ever. So I think Ja loves it in Memphis, and I think they're like honestly like one other solid piece to complement him away from honestly making a run.
The Grizzlies are doing what the Mavs are doing. They have their superstar and surrounded a bunch of role players that play really well with Ja, and they're winning a bunch of games right now.
Yeah.
They don't have a star-studded team, but they're winning, and they play really well together. So I think the team to beat square pick is the Suns, though. The way they're playing is really come out of nowhere. Yeah. CP3 wins everywhere he goes. He makes every team better immediately. DeAndre Ayton, really solid post. Mikal Bridges is playing well. Cam Payne and Jay Crowder have kind of had career resurgences there, and Devin Booker is a superstar. So the Suns are really, really, really playing some good ball. They smoked the Bucks last week. I think them and the Warriors right now are probably the 2 of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on one more thing in the NBA because I want to just hammer the Lakers for the joke of a season that they've had. Because we talked about it this summer.
Yeah.
Lakers made that trade to get Russ. And I like Russ. They gave away Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, KCP, couple picks. They got rid of all their pieces for Russ. And when we saw their team they put together this offseason, they got Russ, AD, and LeBron. Awesome. 3 Hall of Famers. But they surrounded him with Dwight Howard, Trevor Ariza, Wayne Ellington. Who else, God? A bunch of old.
They had Rondo.
Jared Dudley.
Yeah. Jared Dudley. I mean, they got so many old players.
Team would have been so good in 2011.
Would have been unreal in 2011. But now, like, that I told Cut, I said, man, that team's not scaring anybody. Like, they're all well past their prime. LeBron, obviously still LeBron. AD can't stay healthy. And I don't know how well Russ is going to fit there. And Russ has been a disaster. LeBron is, like we said, still LeBron. And AD can't stay on the floor. And nobody else in that team can play.
Yeah.
Reeves is the next best player.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That's not good.
No. But I mean, like, I mean, it blows me away just because, you're reading down that roster and you're just like, whoa, this is just kind of a Hail Mary from like my 20-yard line, 80-yard bomb right here. But, but like, I've said this for the last 3 years, and Cameron, you can attest to this. If Anthony Davis does not play, they're probably going to lose.
Yep.
Because even though LeBron is just a freak and never checked up his whole career as far as what he can do, when AD's not playing and LeBron is like, I got to go score 35, that's tough, And Russ, I mean, hell, right now, Frank Vogel, the last we've been seeing on ESPN, he doesn't even have Russ in the game when the game's on the line. That's a problem.
Would you?
mean, no,
Russ was a bad fit there.
but I mean, I don't think. Yeah, I'm putting him on the floor. I mean, you just traded for the guy for this
I don't know,
Hall of Fame squad or whatever. Now, yes, he's playing horrible, but I mean, to not have your guy you just gave up half your team for, not even on the floor when the game's on the line, that's a bad look.
Yeah.
So
really
I don't know. I don't know what their Lakers are doing. I think the Lakers have always been like that as far as getting big names in LA. Everyone wants to play for the Lakers, so it's kind of a self-branded deal. But I think it's a disaster. And, AD, he's hurt all the time. But when AD's playing, they're probably going to win because no one can guard that man.
No. But I'll say this. The Lakers, we talked about how old they were and this failure of a season. Everyone's talking about, well, they got to make some trades at the trade deadline. What are they going to trade? That horrible Russ contract? No one wants Westbrook.
No
other pieces to trade. All they had, I think, was Taylor Horton Tucker is the only piece they had. You're not going to get that much for that guy.
They traded all their pieces for Westbrook.
They traded all their pieces for Westbrook. And Kuzma's having a career year in Washington. And Montrezl Harrell's a solid player. Now he plays for Charlotte. I mean, they went all in for Westbrook, trying to be the three-headed monster like they were, like LeBron was in Miami with him, Bosh, and Wade. And it hasn't worked. I saw a tweet that somebody said, Anthony Davis is one of the most low motor superstars I've ever seen. He really is. AD's like, kind of laid back, hurt all the time. Russ is the most high motor superstar I've literally ever seen in maybe any sport. Those two, they don't play well together. Something's not right. And the Russ fit has been a literal disaster. Russ is shooting the ball. He looks like Ben Simmons offensively out there. He looks like he has the yips shoot the basketball. I mean, the Lakers are in big trouble. They're in danger of missing the play-in tournament. They are.
Ain't it great?
I love every bit of it.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, LeBron scoring 30, 10, and 8 a night. They're getting beat every night. The Lakers are probably the worst defensive team in the league, too, because they're all so old.
Oh, easily.
The only player that they have that's been somewhat beneficial that they just picked up off the street cut?
Oh.
Stanley Johnson, our man.
Yeah.
The only defender they have on that team.
That's when Chuck was roasting them, saying Stanley Johnson's y'all's best player. That's a problem.
And he really might be defensively. The Lakers are that bad.
Yeah.
It's a mess in LA. And the Clippers are a whole other topic we won't get into, but they've been a mess too. It's not been a great basketball year for LA basketball.
No.
So we're running out of time. I want to touch on a little bit of college hoops before we run on this pod. College hoop season, boys. March Madness is around the corner.
It's upon us.
4 Sundays away from Selection Sunday. It is heating up. Some big games going on tonight. Massive games tomorrow. Villanova at Providence. Kentucky at Tennessee. We talked about Texas, OU, Wisconsin, Indiana. Super Tuesday's in full effect tomorrow. It'll be really fun to sit back and watch some of these games. Y'all, both of y'all had a pretty good weekend. Bama picked up a nice win over Arkansas by 1 point in the thriller there. Baylor mopped the floor with UT, kind of got back on track. Tough loss losing JTT, but I think Baylor will be okay. Y'all are deep enough. You got enough cats out there that can, keep it going. So I want to ask you this, Hunter. Who is the team to beat in college basketball? What teams we need to look out for as March is kind of coming up on us?
All right, so my team to beat is officially Gonzaga right now. Last week I said it was between Auburn and Gonzaga. Then Auburn goes down. Gonzaga is pretty much consensus best team in the country right now. But if they get a bad draw and play a physical team, I could see a team like Houston giving them some trouble because Houston's going to punch them in the mouth. And Gonzaga hadn't been punched in the mouth all year. I mean, they've played some bad or some good teams and, before conference, but they got beat by Duke and they got smoked by Alabama. And Alabama is a team like Houston that can get out and push it, get out and run. And I think if they ran into a team, I mean, I keep bringing up Houston because they play physical, hard-nosed basketball. But, as I say that, I realize Houston did go 0 for 2 last week. I think maybe missing Sasser's kind of catching up to him a little bit. But, I still think Gonzaga is probably the team to beat. But the top end of this bracket is going to be pretty wide open, I think. I mean, there's going to be – if we went and no one seed made the Final Four, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, those are my next 2 points. I brag on Houston on the pod last week, and they go 0-2 after I talk about it.
Yeah.
Get beat by SMU.
And put the brownie curse on them.
I'm telling you, man, it's the plague. And then Memphis goes out and mops the floor. Memphis finally has their big coming out party, which they badly needed.
Yeah.
So Hunter, I was talking to you about this before the pod we heard this on the Barstool Benchmark pod of teams like Memphis and Michigan and, even Alabama, some teams that have underachieved this year, but you do not want to catch them in the tournament. If Memphis and Michigan are able to get there, if they get hot, They can beat anybody. They can also win.
That Michigan team that we saw play Purdue this
Unreal.
week, that team would have beat any team in the country that night. You could have ran Gonzaga out against Michigan that night in that gym, and they wouldn't have come within 10 points. I mean, that team was unreal. And if they get a glimpse of that, if they can make the tournament and just get half of that going, they're going to be hard to handle.
Yeah, man, I love college basketball. I'm so glad we get to talk about it now. And I was looking at some of the standings today, messing around. The Big 12 is loaded.
Yeah.
Kansas State's the worst team in the Big 12, and they're 13-11.
Well, think about this. Okie Light can't even make the tournament, but they're dangerous. If Oklahoma State were eligible for the tournament, theoretically, every team in the conference would be at worst a bubble team.
Yeah. West Virginia and OU and Iowa State are like 3-7 in conference, and they're all still in Lenardi's bracket to make the tournament, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I love that conference, and Hunter, we both love the Big East. The
best
Big
conference in college basketball.
Much fun to watch. It is smash mouth, hit you in the face, kick you in the guts every game, and those guys get after it. Every single gym is packed to the brim.
Yep.
At a big game. Providence Villanova is going to be an absolute war tomorrow night.
And I'll tell you what's good about the Big East. And Cut, I'm going to hate on the SEC here for a minute. SEC schools, they'll get packed and they'll get loud. Those fans don't love basketball. Those fans love their school.
At Auburn,
you go to a Big East game and those fans love basketball. Those are basketball schools. You don't go to Providence to go watch football games. You don't go to Villanova to watch football games. You go to watch basketball games. And that's why those crowds are all so good, no matter who they're playing. It's the most fun basketball to watch because they don't really have a dominant team this year, but they've got 4 or 5 teams that are all pretty good. You got Marquette, Villanova, Creighton, Providence, obviously. I mean, it's a good conference.
Yeah, and those crowds are wild. Like we watched that Xavier game Friday night. That was a wild atmosphere.
Yep.
I mean,
awesome.
It's fun to watch. And so I kind of want to talk about the SEC basketball too. SEC's got some pretty top-heavy teams. I think Kentucky's one of the most complete teams in the country. Tennessee's a solid team. If Bama can figure out how to be consistent.
Hey, Cameron, I didn't mean to cut you off. Have you heard anything about Ty Washington's knee?
I have not.
Okay.
I think I was talking to Bud's buddy Derek earlier this morning back in Kentucky. He said they're pretty banged up right now. And
yeah, I mean, if Ty's out for the year, that's a huge loss.
I don't think he's out for the year. I haven't seen anything like that. But I do think Kentucky's banged up. They are not fully healthy. So it's a great time for my Vols to strike and catch them tomorrow. But the SEC is nice right now. Arkansas, they've kind of figured it out. LSU's dangerous. The Gators are always dangerous. And then you got Bama, Kentucky, Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for conference tournaments coming up, man. There's going to be a lot of really, really fun conferences to watch.
Yeah, but I mean, like you were saying in the SEC, I think you got that stretch of teams where you got A&M, Florida, LSU, and Arkansas all right there that at any given time, any given night, they could click big time. I mean, all the way across. And as my Alabama team. We thank God we needed these last 2 wins, on the road to Ole Miss. That was looking pretty shaky at first, and then Jaden Shackelford lit up the lights that night. And then we beat a hot Arkansas team. So we needed those 2 wins big time, because this week we got Kentucky on the road. Even if they're banged up, that's going to be a tough place to go play. But yeah, the SEC's got a lot of good clubs, and a lot of clubs that if you don't want to catch them on the night that they're on, that's how I'd probably put the SEC really, outside of Kentucky and Auburn. They're going to do what they're going to do every night. But outside of that, you got some teams that if they start clicking, making some shots, some turnovers, man, you better watch out. They might just beat you.
What's wrong with me? I didn't even mention Auburn talking about the SEC. They might be the best team in the country. I'll say this about Bama, Cud. My goodness, they have had a tough schedule this year.
Oh, toughest in the country by far. It's not even close. Yeah, not even close.
I mean, the Baylor game, non-conference, Houston non-conference, Gonzaga. Then you go play, these top-heavy teams in the SEC. Bama's played a tough schedule to their.
Those 3-game stretch, they were all top 5 teams in the country. Yeah. And we went 1-2. But and those 2 losses were not good losses at all. But honestly, even though we've been banged up and playing tough teams pretty much night in, night out, I like that. I want to play the teams and battle test our team, because Hunter, like you were just saying, Gonzaga, yeah, they're a phenomenal club, but have they got punched in the mouth?
Yeah.
No. So having that experience going in the tournament where literally anyone can beat anyone, that's what I love. So I'm excited. Even though we have been up and down all year, that's something that I think is going to come into play and help us big time.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than you get a team going the tournament at 28-3, but they hadn't been tested all year, and you know you're kind of frauds, and they always get bounced early in the tournament.
Yeah.
But first in that tournament, you get hit in the mouth, you got to know how to react, and Bama should be as battle tested as anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you mentioned something like that, I think about a team like, maybe Wyoming, or even a team from the West Coast Conference like St. Mary's or something.
Yeah.
West Coast Conference is up a little this year, but it's not nearly as good as we thought it was going to be. And so even though St. Mary's will certainly get an at-large bid, I don't look for them to be very dangerous. And then obviously a team like Wyoming that has a bunch of wins, they've strung a bunch of wins together. They haven't played anybody.
Cowboys team, though.
What'd you say?
I like the Cowboys team. They're fun.
Yeah, they know how to win games. I feel like every night they win a close game, but I think if they draw a physical big basketball team, they're up against it.
Oh, how about our Colorado State Rams, Brown?
Colorado State Rams, man, that is a ball club.
That club's got a lot of heart,
a lot of grit.
Nothing but grit on that team. Nothing but grit from the Rams. Yep. Mountain West got Wyoming, Colorado State, Boise State, San Diego State. They got some kind of fun mid-majors to watch. And I was looking at Lenardi's bracket and the bubble teams. There's a lot of mid-major at-large bids this year, which is really rare. We got San Francisco, St. Mary's, BYU, Davidson.
Is BYU even on the bubble anymore?
BYU's kind of in a little stretch.
I don't know if I'd have them on my bubble.
Lenardi's got them in as of right now. So, and speaking of the bubble, this is as loaded as a bubble as I've ever seen.
Yeah.
We look at Rutgers, they just beat Wisconsin on the road after beating Michigan State and Ohio State.
Yeah.
3 games in a row stretch.
Yeah, they were way out of it, and they just played themselves right in the middle of the bubble.
Same Rutgers team that lost to Lafayette, not Louisiana Lafayette, the Lafayette of the North, UMass Minutemen, and DePaul in a 3-game stretch earlier in the season. This is a tournament last year and won a tournament game. And now here they are making a late push, beating these really good Big Ten teams. You also got Michigan, who's underperformed. They're hanging on for dear life. Mm-hmm. West Virginia get beat tonight by Kansas State.
Yeah, they lost.
Their bubble might have just popped. You got OU with all their transfers they had come in. They haven't meshed. Their bubble's heavy. Oregon had a nasty loss to Cal. They might have just popped their bubble. ACC's is probably the worst I've ever seen that conference.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Their entire conference is bubble teams outside of Duke. Wake Forest, Miami, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, all bubble teams. No one with a solid resume.
bad teams in the ACC too.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Boston College, Syracuse,
Florida State.
Florida State's.
Oh.
Yes, Louisville. I don't know what happened to the ACC, but that conference is down, and that's
How's
really
Syracuse going to make the Elite Eight this year? I mean, they're going to have to. They're going to have to do something, make it to the tournament as an 11 seed, and then somehow make the Elite Eight.
I saw they won 3 in a row before Saturday. I was like, here they go. Here comes Boeheim's 12 seed run. They're going to go to the Elite Eight. They got beat by Virginia Tech.
I told you this before the season started. Basketball has passed Jim Boeheim. He's washed.
Seems like it. And maybe the same for Huggy Bear over West Virginia too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe passing those guys up. I think it passed up Roy Williams, and he got out of Dodge last year.
Yeah, he saved face.
That's true.
I don't know, but it's going to be fun, man. I love talking college hoops. There's a lot of really fun teams to talk about. We didn't even talk about that Memphis team. They probably have more NBA talent than anybody in the league, and they have been able to figure it out. They finally got their signature win against Houston, but it may be too late for that ball club. So I don't know. It'll be really interesting to watch. There's a lot of really fun teams to watch. Those Big East games tomorrow are going to be unreal. I'll be glued to my TV for Tennessee, Kentucky. Yep. Go Vols. Friars against Villanova is going to be a great game. Providence is very sneaky, 20-2. Going to find out a lot about that team when they play Villanova, the Kings of the Big East, in that game tomorrow night.
And you got Wednesday night, you got Baylor at Texas Tech. That's going to be a war in the Big 12.
War.
You mentioned Texas Tech. Texas Tech's got a hell of a team this year.
Yeah, they can play.
They haven't been at full strength. That coach, was it Mark Adams, done a great job stepping in, taking over that program after Chris Beard. Texas Tech is no joke. And there's nothing I love more in college basketball this time here in these home crowds. We're talking about that Virginia Tech crowd against Virginia tonight. That is a rivalry right there, man.
Yeah.
That crowd was rabid.
They were out for blood.
Yes, they were. That Providence crowd tomorrow night is going to be something else too against Illinois. So it should be fun to watch. Any last thoughts, boys, before we close out this week's pod?
I think we covered it.
I'm going to shout out Scotty Scheffler winning on tour yesterday.
Yes.
Getting his first career win. That's first of many, I think. It's been a long time coming. And I think he might win a major this year. I'm going to say it. Scotty Scheffler winning a major this year. Take it to the bank.
That's another thing we got coming up, Hunter. We got the Masters on the rise. Keep seeing quite a bit of Masters commercials.
Oh, gosh.
Best time.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
Best time of the year. We got to run, but I want to mention one more thing. We talk about, AFCs in the QB era. How many freaking good golfers are there right now? Man?
Unbelievable.
Too many.
Unbelievable.
Right now on tour is literally insane. I mean, you got a new stud winning every week. You got Morikawa, Thomas, Spieth, Cantlay, Scheffler. The Ryder Cup, we're not losing another Ryder Cup for 15 years. We've got so
great.
Yeah.
It's our time. It's our time.
It's amazing.
It's going to be fun to watch. But shout out, Scotty. That was a great golf tournament, man. I'm calling somebody at the Waste Management. They need to tee off earlier. Tee off at 8 o'clock in the morning. We cannot be running to the Super Bowl anymore. That was such a good tournament that I had to miss the playoff because it ran into the Super Bowl. It's like the third or fourth time that's happened. Tee off earlier. That tournament is awesome. 2 holes on 16.
That was incredible.
I've never seen anything like that in golf with the fans going that berserk. When that hole, the mystification of that is really taken on a world of its own, a life of its own.
Uh-huh.
That's a fun tournament to watch. I look forward to that one every year. So, but yeah, a lot of talent in golf. Masters coming up around the corner. March Madness around the corner. Good time to be a sports fan. Love this time of year. So that's all we got this week on 903 Sports Pod. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next week. Talk a little more hoops. Thanks everybody.